Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another important live video update. So we have been absolutely bombarded with emails over the course of what was essentially a long weekend. Mind you, we did ask people, please don't email us over the long weekend because we're trying to have a bit of a break, but nevertheless, we were bombarded with emails. Now, most of them, I have to say, were from people who somehow gotten themselves confused, in particular about our books, and specifically which one relates to fines, because, of course, you know, no surprises, all the revenue-raising goons were absolutely out in force over the long weekend, collecting money on behalf of the various state governments. Why? Because, of course, they've been handing out all this cash to all and sundry, encouraging people to go and take PCR tests so that they can bump up the number of cases and, of course, bring in all their wonderful mandatory vaccination laws. Now, speaking of tests, very interesting. Did you hear or did you notice that since Biden got in, the World Health Organization has now instructed governments from around the world, okay, to reduce the number of PCR amplification cycles from 45 down to 30. Now, we explained exactly what PCR amplification cycles are in detail on one of our recent radio show broadcasts. But for those of you who are new to all of this, basically, in essence, the more they amplify the tests, of course, the less accurate that they are. So it'd be like zooming in on a photo or photocopying a document 45 times instead of 30. It's going to be a lot more grainy. It's going to be a lot less accurate. So the governments were previously amplifying at 45 cycles, which obviously, you know, created an inordinate number of false positives. Now they're being directed to drop those cycles by a full third down to just 30 cycles, which is obviously going to produce a lot less positive results. And of course, all the various governments around the world will no doubt claim that this reduction in, you know, numbers of cases has of course been as a direct result of all of their lockdown measures, their mandatory mask directives, and of course, let's not forget the rollout of the COVID vaccinations that's already going on around the world. And that's what they're going to say is that's the reason that all these cases have been, you know, reduced, which of course is not the way it's happened at all. So please read up on this, make sure you're aware of this change, and you know, be aware of it for when all the, you know, the numbers magically start reducing, you know, around the world. Now, anyway, back to fines, because this has been a really big issue over the course of the past week. We've heard that police were handing out fines left, right and centre, as I said, over the long weekend for things like failing to wear masks, you know, traffic offences. A lot of boating fines apparently were handed out over the weekend as well. So, just to remind everyone, okay, we do have an entire chapter on fines, okay, in our Know Your Rights book. It is, of course, chapter 1, and that explains a summary or an overview of why fines are unlawful, why we've all been subjected to private law since 1973, why no law has been validly enacted since 1973. So it gives you all the background information, which obviously I believe is very important to understand and be aware of when it comes to fines. However, if you're looking for the actual step-by-step letters, the 3-step process that's been tried, tested, and proven by the Aussie Speeding Fines members over the past 13 years, this is the book that you need. Okay, there's links in the description so you can get these various books. Their entire book is all about fines. It has that 3-step process. They have something like 7 pages now of testimonials on their website spanning 13 years, so you can see how effective that information is for successfully challenging all manner of fines. Now, I would urge everybody, as always, please don't wait until the inevitable happens. Don't wait till you get pulled over. Don't wait to get stopped on the street and handed a fine, okay? Get a copy of that book before that happens, and preferably get a copy of that so you understand about your rights. You know what to say and do and what not to say and do to preferably avoid being issued with a fine in the first place. Now, again, people are asking us, so the third book in the series, I guess, or that we deal with, of course, is the Bank Secrets Revealed book. And that, of course, has all the information about the banking fraud, how to challenge the banks in regards to your home loan, and how to successfully discharge any personal loans, credit cards, anything that is unsecured. So again, you'll find a link in the description. You can get them as part of the combo pack. So they're the differences between the books. They all work hand in hand really, really well. You know, especially the fines book and the Know Your Rights book, because there's so much information and background information, as well as the step-by-step strategies in those. So please, be aware of that. Get your head around that information. Now, we've also had a heap of emails from people asking about masks, and in particular, the distinct inconsistency between the different mask requirements between states, but also within the same state as well. We've also heard of various workplaces forcing people or threatening people that if they don't wear a mask, they can't work, despite many of the documented associated health risks that come with wearing one of these for more than about 15 to 20 minutes, which is all they are designed for. So please, if you haven't read those articles, if you're not aware, if you know someone that might not be aware of the health risks of the long-term wearing of masks, please direct them to that section on our vaccination page and just download those articles and have a read. Now, the inconsistency is the biggest problem. And there was an article on 9MSN that really highlighted some of those problems. Now, I would never normally recommend reading anything from the mainstream media, but this article was interesting because it just spells it out so clearly. So this one is fears the New South Wales government is sending mixed messages over face masks. And it says, a leading epidemiologist has implored New South Wales residents to keep wearing face masks in shopping centres amid fears of mixed messages from the state government. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian yesterday announced restrictions will be relaxed as the state recorded its 11th consecutive day without a local COVID-19 case. Gatherings of 30 people will be allowed in homes from Friday, and masks will no longer be compulsory in shopping centres, but they must continue to be worn on public transport, beauty salons and places of worship, because apparently COVID doesn't get into those places. Epidemiologist and World Health Organisation advisor Professor Mary Louise McClaws welcomes the decision to keep mask mandate on public transport. She's concerned the rollback in shopping centres sends mixed signals. I'm so pleased that they're making it mandatory on transport. That's so important. You have poor airflow, she told Today. But the same thing happens in shopping malls. So I'm not sure about that one. It does send mixed messages and it's not quite logical. I'd ask people to, instead of thinking about it as a recommendation, still do it, she said. Please keep going with masks in shopping malls until at least the weekend, because apparently COVID won't be around until after the weekend. I mean, this is the stupidity, okay? The stupidity of the inconsistency. You have to wear it in a shopping mall this week, but you don't have to wear it in a shopping mall next week. You don't have to wear it in a shopping mall this week, but you have to wear it in a beauty salon or in a church. I mean, it just makes no sense. It is, of course, completely arbitrary. Now, this is something that I've covered on previous videos, okay? And that is that for a law to be meaningful, it must be applied consistently. Okay, if you say this road has a speed limit of 60 k's an hour, that applies to everybody, not just people over the age of 50. Okay, it applies to everyone. It's the same with masks. Either you wear masks all the time or you don't. Okay, this inconsistency within states and then between states is just ridiculous, and that inconsistency invalidates that law or that directive. Okay, and that of course invalidates any fines that are associated with that as well. All right, now the other thing that we've had people emailing us about a lot over the past week, especially in Queensland, where businesses have been instructed to use those scannable QR codes instead of manually recording people's details. And that's the question as to whether a business can refuse you entry for not scanning a QR code. Now, I've said this before, that businesses, can set their own entry requirements, and, personally, I would suggest just taking your business elsewhere and making it clear that you're going elsewhere and you're going to spend your money elsewhere. But people want to go a bit further and they want to know the ins and outs, and that's fine. So I'm happy to cover that. Now, first and foremost, from a practical point of view, okay, because we're all about practical, real world workable solutions here at Know Your Rights. At the end of the day, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? Okay, I'm all about being effective. So I would simply just suggest just grabbing your phone, holding it up, scanning the QR code, pretend to fill it out, just keep walking, on into the business, and then just close the phone down and put it in your pocket. Okay, that's the simplest real world practical way to deal with it. But for those of you who really are interested in learning the ins and outs about the law and about your rights, I would urge you to look up Section 94, okay, of the Privacy Act 1988, which was added in just last year. So here's a copy. You can just look it up online. Privacy Act 1988. You're looking for the current version. You're going to Part 8A, Public Health Contact Information. You're then going to Section 94H, which it talks about requiring the use of COVID safe. And then we go to subsection 2, and it says a person commits an offence if the person A, refuses to enter into or continue a contract or arrangement with another person, including a contract of employment. So you could perhaps twist this around to suit the mask situation as well. B, takes adverse action within the meaning of the Fair Work Act 2009 against another person. Or C, refuses to allow another person to enter 1, premises that are otherwise accessible to the public, or 2, premises that the other person has a right to enter. D, refuses to allow another person to participate in an activity. E, refuses to receive goods or services from another person or insists on providing less monetary consideration for the goods or services. Or F, and this is the key, refuses to provide goods or services to another person or insists on receiving more monetary consideration for the goods or services on the grounds that, or on grounds that include that the other person, A, has not downloaded the COVID Safe app to a communication device, B, does not have a COVID Safe in operation on a communication device, or, here's the key one, has not consented to uploading COVID app data from a communication device to the National COVID Safe Data Store. Penalty, imprisonment for 5 years or 300 penalty units or both. Okay? So if they say to you, if a business says to you, we are not going to let you enter our business or do business with us unless you scan this QR code and upload your data, you keep a printout of that page and show it to them. Okay? Most businesses haven't got a clue because they're just following orders. All right? So this is really powerful. Those who want to take this to the next level, really want to get their head around their rights and really want to stand their ground, that's the next option for you. So hopefully this helps everyone with some real world information and strategies that are genuinely going to help you learn about and of course stand up for your rights. Now of course this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we cover. So as always, I would urge you all, please make use of all of the resources that we have available. All of these live video updates on our YouTube channel, all of our radio show podcasts, and of course all the books and CDs that you can find on the various websites, and use those to get informed, get fired up, and of course get proactive. So please, as I mentioned before, there's links in the description. Grab those books. You can purchase them individually. You can purchase them as part of the combo pack. Read them, get your head around them, and start implementing the information. So I'm going to finish it off there. I hope you all have a great weekend on the coming weekend. I look forward to speaking to you all live again on Tuesday night, and that's between 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, of course, on Tuesday for our next live radio show. Talk to you then.